I wasn't going to do the 5 things we learned forever, and especially after that 3-0 loss to Bayern Munich, I don't really know how much we did learn. So instead, here's 5 headlines from the 3-0 loss for Barcelona against Bayern Munich at the Camp Nou. Number 1 is below expectations. I think the general narrative after this is going to be, even though Culés and the general audience all agreed that after the 8-2, Barcelona just had to fight, they just had to do something for their pride, but yet Bayern Munich were a better team, or expected to win this match. And so I feel like people are surprised that Bayern Munich won this match. I'm not, because the expectation was that Bayern Munich are the better side. Were they 3-0 better? That's, I think, where we temper our expectations and have a discussion on whether or not Barca were actually worse than we expected them to be. So was Barcelona's performance below expectations? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. It was all shaped by how we expected the match to be. And how we view the match doesn't have to be one or the other. The youngsters playing in the second half was certainly a positive, but not necessarily all a positive, and I'll get to that in a second. For now, let's talk formation. It wasn't shocking to see Barcelona in a 3-5-2. You could call it a 5-3-2 because of all the defending that they did. And I had said it beforehand. I know that a lot of people are getting on Koeman for that formation and the choice to, let's say, not be brave and be defensive. But with the players he had at his disposal, I'm not sure what formation he could have gone with. I actually would have gone with the same thing. Would I have been that defensive? I mean, probably not. I would hope that the team wasn't. But with a number 9 who had never played, with 8 of the 11 starters next to him, and a team that is still very much in flux, against a team in Bayern Munich that knows exactly who they are, the exact same system they've been playing for 5 seasons, I just can't believe we're that surprised at the formation and the game plan that Barcelona went with. Other than Garcia, Inform, and Gaetha, that was the exact 11 that I had prior to this match. And you knew that Barcelona had a few things they had to do to try to even get any result. They had to load bodies up in the middle of the field. They had to make sure they were switching on the flanks consistently. They had to have bodies in their own box, and they had to make sure that they were switching possession as much as they could on the counter-attack. Kind of the same point as switching the flanks. And I thought they actually did all of those things for the first 30 minutes or so of the match. And then Bayern Munich took it up to 11, and then the match was pretty much over after that, after the first goal was scored. Because that's the disappointing part of this. While they did stay in their shape, they played well, and they did what they needed to do in the middle of the park, things couldn't last forever, and they did fall apart. And even for the attack in the first 30 minutes, while I thought Barca were kind of the better team at home, they had better build-ups, they were doing more in possession. But the negative and downside of that is that Barcelona never really felt like they were going to get a goal in open play. It felt like anything that would have happened would have come on a set piece. I also don't understand why people aren't giving any credit to Bayern Munich. I know they said that Bayern were kind of poor for the first 30 minutes, sure, but they still outshot Barcelona 17-5 in this game. And the alarming one, though, is 7-0 on target. The 17-7 aren't what frustrate me. It's the 0 on target that is a concerning point. Even against a side that is superior to you, 0 shots on target for FC Barcelona at home, just not good enough. That's not going to cut it, and that's kind of where I have to draw the line. When the formation changed to a 4-3-3 and the young players came on, it felt a lot like Barcelona were closer to a goal than they had been in the first 20 minutes of the second half. Was it all on the speed of Luuk de Jong and the tactical decision of Koeman to sit deep? Yes and no. Those things affected the attack in really negative ways, obviously, but this game may have been a lot worse if not for the defensive decisions. Which I get goes against everything Barca is supposed to stand for, but Barca usually don't lose their top leading goal scorers a month before the season starts. I know it sounds like an excuse that I keep bringing up, that Messi and Griezmann are gone and we have to temper our expectations based on what they have, but I don't think that the club is in a position to do that just yet. I'm going to keep bringing it up as long as I feel like it's relevant. And to that end, I'm not exactly sure what people are expecting from this attack so early on in this transition process. For me, I'm expecting more than 0 shots on target. That's the expectation. 2, let's be a bit more positive. Ronald Araújo, awesome in this match. Whether it was his defensive work alongside Roberto and De Jong out on that right wing, it was his one-on-one defending on Leroy Sané, it was his last-ditch defending on Lewandowski, on Muller, and getting in that box and muddying things up, it was winning goal kicks. He did all the little things, again, passing the eye test, even more than the advanced metrics. Advanced metrics-wise, he didn't actually do that great, but his last-ditch defending, as I said, 5 clearances, 3 of 4 ground duels won, 1 of 1 on aerial duels. Going 1 for 5 on long balls and losing possession 7 times are unsurprising stats, and those hurt his advanced metrics a bit. But we know what we saw. Either he does that, or the ball would have been in the back of the net a lot more. I thought PK was good, and I think people agree with that too. The advanced metrics say he was actually Barcelona's best player on the evening. Eric Garcia, though, another confusing point here. I understand that people are out on Garcia. They think that he isn't good enough, either physically as well as with the ball, to be in the Champions League. And they say that, hey, there's a reason why Man City let him go for free, and all of those different things. One, I continue to say it, he's 20 years old. And two, we're judging Eric Garcia for what he was doing 1v1 with Robert Lewandowski, who is the 2020 Ballon d'Or winner, deserved that award, and is easily the best number 9 in the world. So for Eric Garcia against Lewandowski, I'm not surprised to see him get cut inside out. And the way that he turned on that first goal for the deflection, not great. And I hope that's a learning experience. For Eric Garcia at the age of 20, I'm willing to learn with him because he can already play the ball like an established vet, like he shows for Spain. And Barcelona being a work in progress, when they're at their best, I want to see where Eric Garcia is in his development. It's very much the same thing with Serginho Dest. If he can improve, I think he can be a really important player. And I'm not completely out on him in saying that this is who he is and this is who he'll be forever. Because against Lewandowski, a lot of players would look like he looked tonight. Final thing on the defense, even though he's playing wingback, I want to give a big compliment to Jordi Alba. We don't do that very often, and I think a lot is expected of him, and he also has his frailties on defense. But Jordi Alba, for having a fever and a stomach bug less than 24 hours ago, to go out and start and to play like he did against Bayern Munich in the Champions League, that's a compliment to his intensity and his desire to succeed at the highest level. I would have loved to see Alejandro Balde probably start this game, knowing now what we know about Jordi Alba, but for Alba to go out and be trusted in that position and to have the performance that he did, it wasn't all inspiring, it wasn't all conquering, and no, he didn't help them win a match, but I didn't think that that result of 3-0 was almost in any way Jordi Alba's fault. He had a lot of protection out there on the left wing, but Jamal Musiala didn't really do a lot. And that's again credit to Jordi Alba defending well with Pedri and working with Eric Garcia to suffocate that space out on the left wing. Unfortunately, he didn't help too much with the interior as far as crowding bodies in the middle. And then when it came to set pieces, that's all you can expect from Jordi. And when Bayern Munich were coming through the middle, there wasn't much for Alba to do, and you could tell that he certainly was a half step slow tonight. All that said, again, a compliment to him for playing in the condition he was in. 3, the young players were good, that's a positive, but that doesn't necessarily mean Koeman was brave. I think that's a little bit of a negative. It's roses to Gavi, Demir, and Balde all coming on, and I thought all impressing. They impacted the game in positive ways, and yeah, I guess the manager is instilling confidence in them, but you can't tell me that this group of young players wouldn't have been having the exact same success if a guy like Garcia Pimienta was on the sideline. Garcia Pimienta may have even started Gavi instead of Busquets and moved De Jong to the pivot. That's a bit extreme and feels a bit crazy, especially the way Gavi looked like he was ready to get 100 yellows in 30 minutes, but that would have been what I would consider brave. But that doesn't mean that Koeman is just throwing out players. All of Gavi, Demir, and Balde look like they are teenagers who will very soon contribute, and giving them confidence now will pay dividends later. And it's not like he's just playing kids to play kids. These kids had clearly earned their time in training and deserve to be on that field. It's always sad not to see Ricky Puig or Nico Gonzalez, but I was really happy and optimistic about the role that Gavi, Demir, and Balde could play as the season goes on. On to Frenkie de Jong, one of the best that Barcelona had to offer, but also one of the big reasons that Bayern Munich won this game 3-0. The mistakes between he and Busquets cost Barca this match. Busquets can't keep up with Bayern. It worked for 30 minutes, but it got harder and harder for Busquets to cover the horizontal space required to provide help with the wingers and fullbacks while trying to help track Thomas Müller. That last situation is what led to the first goal, and it all started with a bad giveaway from that midfield. It wasn't on any of the three individually either. De Jong gave the ball away 8 times, Busquets gave the ball away 5 times, and Pedri gave the ball away 5 times. And if your midfield 3 are going to give the ball away a total of 18 times, Bayern Munich are going to capitalize. That's easy to understand. La Liga teams aren't going to beat you like that, but Bayern will. And that's a big difference between the Busquets in the Liga and the Busquets in the Champions League. And speaking of midfielders giving the ball away, Sergio Roberto, 9 giveaways on the night is just not going to cut it. 24 of 31 passes completed, 0 dribbles attempted. The numbers are even worse to him than the eye test, and the eye test for those at the Camp Nou booed him. Something that PK said was pretty unfortunate. And I don't like to see any of the players booed, whether it's Coutinho back in the day, whether it's Umtiti in the preseason, Roberto now. I don't like to see our own players getting booed by the Camp Nou crowd. That said, Roberto did not have a performance that in any way would have congratulated him when he was coming off the field. His level in 2021 is that of a bench player against Bayern. But Koeman didn't really have another option without changing the formation. Though with that showing from Roberto, you can't tell me that Oscar Mingueza might not have been able to do a comparable job, or even more so, when getting in possession and finding those spots out on the right wing. We know that Roberto's a backup center midfielder, so he is playing out of position, but those wing options, starting with Dest and Dembele, cannot come back soon enough. And headline number 5, Let's talk Luuk de Jong and the fact that he is not the answer, but he was never meant to be. What was the other option if not Luuk de Jong starting this match to try to hold up the ball and try to at least confuse those center backs in Sula and Upamecano occasionally and get them out of position? The only option really was what? Other than maybe Demir and changing the complete formation, or you would have had Coutinho in to start after not playing for 9 months and put him in behind Memphis Depay. Those are the only two options that I really could have seen Koeman trusting in this situation. And again, Demir would have meant a change in formation because you're not going to put him out alone on the right wing. That doesn't change the top though. That would be Memphis Depay pushing up and then Demir underneath him. I'm not sure there was any other options for Koeman really to go with other than, I guess you'd say, the plotting Luuk de Jong. As far as Coutinho goes too, I know he hasn't played in 9 months, so I'm not going to read too much into this 24-minute cameo, but I will say that I'm not optimistic. Don't be surprised if Aguero has a bigger influence on this team come May. Which shouldn't be a crazy claim, but he's out for 3 more months. So, I guess it is. And Luuk de Jong will always be compared to the strikers of the past. Barca have maybe the greatest historical collection of strikers of any team in the world, and he's being compared to Lewandowski on the other side. Of course he's going to disappoint. His lack of speed meant that he wasn't much of a release valve for Barcelona's midfield, which they desperately needed in this match. But I will say that I was positive about the way that he worked with Memphis Depay and the ways that he was creating space for Frenkie de Jong's vertical runs and the fullbacks out wide. Alright, so that's it for now. Yeah, it was 3-0. Yeah, it was disappointing. I'm going to have the podcast either in the next few hours or the next few days, depending on when I want to talk about all this again. But until then, Kool-Aids, let's keep our heads up. And as always, Forza Barca.